Welcome, everyone. My name is Wendy Close, and I'll be moderating today's session. Thank you for joining us. Today's session for this particular 30 minutes is called The 8 Building Blocks of Quote-to-Cash Business Transformation, and I have with me the AppNexus team. So I'm super excited to have them join me, and I'd first like to introduce Pablo Dominguez. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Pablo.
Howdy, y'all. Pablo Dominguez, run global business operations, basically supporting all commercial teams, services teams, and product line teams at AppNexus.
Thank you. And he's also got with him Jane Aldridge. You want to tell us about your role at AppNexus?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jane Aldridge. I run the client operations team at AppNexus under Pablo. We have a pooled account management support function, and then we also have a contract processing function.
Thank you, Jane. And then we also have with us Noelle LaRocca.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, LaRocca, that's perfect. I'm on the business automation team at AppNexus. I act as one of our Salesforce subject matter experts. I joined AppNexus 2 years ago through one of their many acquisitions, and I also worked with Jane's team very closely to implement Apttus CLM.
Good, great, thanks. Good to have you here. So Pablo, why don't you tell us a little bit. First, I'm Wendy Close. I'm with Apttus, and I am a vice president here. And let's turn it back over to Pablo. You want to tell us a little bit about what AppNexus does?
Yeah, so you can probably read everything here. We're an internet technology company that basically focuses on digital advertising. That probably means absolutely nothing to anybody in this room, so I'll take it down a level so you understand exactly what that is. So this morning when everybody woke up, you probably went to your favorite website, CNN, ESPN, the Weather Channel, doesn't really matter, and you saw ads on that website. Not the annoying pop-up ads that we hate, but like just ads that are relevant from Audi, from Mercedes, Macy's, et cetera. Those ads, when you clicked on CNN.com and hit enter, were served programmatically. So that means that in milliseconds, there are machines buying and selling those ads to target them specifically to you. And that's what makes the internet free. So we're the layer of technology that allows that to happen in real time.
Awesome.
Cool. To give you a sense of the scale of the business, and this will be important in terms of why we chose a CLM solution that could support us, wanted to share how our business compares to other companies that you're aware of that also have auction sort of mechanics. So first example is New York Stock Exchange. On average, the NYSE transacts about 4.5 million transactions a day. The NASDAQ is more than double at about 10 million transactions a day. And Visa and most credit card companies do about 150 million transactions a day. AppNexus does 10 billion transactions daily. So the business has to scale significantly. It impacts our quotas, it impacts our contracts, et cetera. So you'll hear a little bit about how we're doing that at AppNexus now.
Wow, that's a lot of transactions.
It is.
So I've been in the software industry for about 30 years now, and what we found, especially the past 10 years with Apttus, is that there's really 8 building blocks for successful quote-to-cash transformation. So we're going to walk through those 8 building blocks, and AppNexus is going to tell us what they've done in each of these building blocks. So the first building block is to have a strong quote-to-cash vision. If you noticed on my biography slide, it said, without a vision, the people will perish. So the first thing you want to do is have a really strong vision that helps the organization articulate what is that ideal quote-to-cash experience going to be. So Pablo, tell us a little bit about AppNexus's vision for quote-to-cash.
Yeah, absolutely. So we focused on 4 things or 5 things: people, process, tools, automation, and scale, right? So we definitely wanted to have a solution that could help us scale as we grow. Obviously, we're doing 10 billion transactions daily. That's going to continue to increase. So those focus areas were how we focused on the vision, and you'll hear more specifically about those from Jane and Noelle shortly.
Thank you. So the second building block is to have a well-defined quote-to-cash strategy. And the strategy is going to be your roadmap of how you're going to achieve your vision. Now, usually people will have multiple strategies that they're pursuing, and they'll have business values or business outcomes associated with each strategy. And the strategy topping the list for quote-to-cash is usually revenue generation. So now we're going to have Noelle tell us a little bit about the AppNexus strategy.
Yes, thanks, Wendy. So here you can see a snapshot of our quote-to-cash strategy and journey. So at the start of all of this, we knew we needed to focus on optimizing our process, right? So we threw some ideas out internally, and then we decided that the best way to start this would be by holding a lean session. So those of you who don't know what lean is, it's a process that focuses on maximizing your value while minimizing your waste. So what we did is we chose a bunch of different internal users, all from different functions of the company, but all who followed the contracting process in some capacity, and we split them into groups. Then we mapped out our whole current process, and by doing this, we were able to identify pain points, and we were able to really figure out what we wanted our process to look like. So this also helped us develop requirements for our CLM implementation, which kind of takes me to the next part of this journey. So while we were implementing Apttus, we decided to hold an internal data migration, right? Because we wanted all of our existing contracts to be in one place. So we held that in parallel to the implementation. So once we had Apttus implemented and all of our data migrated over to the new object, we rolled out CLM. So that was around 10 months ago, and it's been really successful. But after rollout, we decided that we wanted to make sure adoption was strong, so we held several training sessions for several weeks after that, and now this is where we are here. So at the start, I mentioned we were focusing heavy on process. So now we're at the point where we feel like we can focus more on the product. So we're looking into ways to better the UI and the user experience and seeing what we can do to fix that and improve upon that. So with the ultimate goal being to integrate Salesforce with our internal product, which is called Console, with the idea being that when you activate an agreement through Apttus, that would automate the next steps in Console, which is a manual process today, still handled by Jane's team.
Excellent, thank you. So you mentioned clean data, and that's actually the third building block for quote-to-cash business transformation. We all know that dirty data can really mess up your ability to be successful with projects like this. For example, we found that you can have over-generous offers or reduced profits or too much rogue discounting, forecasting challenges, all kinds of problems with reporting, so it's really critical to have clean data. So why don't you tell us a little bit, Noelle, about what you did to clean your data?
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. So in my last slide, I mentioned how we underwent an internal data migration, right? So the main reason for doing this was because we wanted to have all of our data in one place for reporting, right? So here you can see this is our 10,000 contracts herding over to the new object. So once we migrated all of that data, there were still questions on the cleanliness of it, right? Because this was handled through the old process, which was very manual, more prone to data entry errors and whatnot. So this led us to decide to partner with a company called Brightleaf. And what Brightleaf does is they're actually able to tap into your contract files and extract certain types of data that you're looking for. So we started small with them, and we're really happy with the results. We're at a much better place with our data. It's much more reliable. There's still a long way to go, so we're going to continue to leverage them moving forward.
Excellent, thank you. So the fourth building blocks, we started with vision, strategy, clean data, and the next building block is high organizational collaboration. Because the revenue generation process cuts across your organization, there's so many departments that are involved, whether it's sales strategy or your product department, your sales operations, finance, legal. So a high degree of organizational collaboration is critical to pull off a quote-to-cash business transformation project. So Noelle, can you tell us a little bit about what you did to create collaboration in your company?
Yeah, so collaboration really is a must. We have around 200 users internally who are using our Apttus tool on a daily basis. So for adoption, we want to make sure that they're comfortable with the process and that they know that we're hearing their feedback and acting against that. So this kind of led us to decide to create our champions program, right? So what we did is we chose global users from all of our offices, and we hold monthly meetings with them. So during these meetings, we listen to any feedback that they have or that they've generated or gathered from their groups, and then we go over our roadmaps with them. So we let them know any new changes or new fixes we're bringing to the tool or the system, and it's been really successful so far.
Great. And then the next piece for success in quote-to-cash business transformation is well-defined and automated processes. Many times people will just automate what's their current process is, where this is an opportunity to really re-engineer and reimagine what your processes could be to make them better. And you also want to think about tying your quote-to-cash processes even into broader processes within your enterprise. And then finally, not all processes are equal. For example, there are some processes that will affect your customers and your buyers, and you'll want to focus on those first because they're outward facing. So we're going to have Jane tell us a little bit about what you did to automate and define your processes.
Great. So this represents a flow chart of our old process. So When we first went ahead and knew that we were going to implement CLM, the first thing that we did was flowchart out our current process just to see who's involved, what are the number of steps, how many handoffs do we have. So as you can see, we had a lot of handoffs and a lot of steps and a lot of swim lanes, which represent our cross-functional teams, which made our sales and account managers feel like this. They were not very happy. So we knew that we needed to do something. We knew that we were going to do Apttus CLM. But the first thing that we did was go through a lean process. So Noel and Pablo talked about this earlier. We got our cross-functional teams together and focused on opportunity stages. So they each split up opportunity stages and said, okay, what are the main issues that I see with this? And they picked one that they wanted to dig into, and then they used lean methodologies called the 5 whys and said, well, why do I think this is an issue? So you ask yourself 5 whys, like ask yourself why 5 times, and eventually you get to the core problem. So once we had our core problems, then we came up with solutions and pitched them to our executive team and started to implement those first before we went ahead and automated.
Excellent. And I think this is a good time, too, to show that this is another example of how you collaborated across your company, really getting a lot of key stakeholders involved in the process automation through the lean methodology.
Definitely. So this is what it looks like after. So after the lean method, after lean sessions and after Apttus CLM, much cleaner. You still have a lot of people involved in the process, but there's a lot less handoffs between the swim lanes and just overall more simple, which makes our sales and account managers feel like this, clean and happy.
Great. So I had mentioned that not all processes are equal, so this leads us to our 6th building block, which is a consistent valued customer experience. So what we've seen companies use is something called a customer experience map. And we were actually just at our customer advisory board yesterday, and we used this tool to have some of our advisory board members, actually we had them all, map their experiences with Apttus. So for example, you may start out with like really an amazing experience when you get a demo of a product, right? And then, so you may rate that as a Zen experience. And then maybe you come to something like this, at Accelerate, and you rate that experience as enjoyable. And then maybe you negotiate the contract, it's a little uncomfortable, the pricing, and maybe you rate that experience as, ugh, right? Maybe then you deploy, you're excited again. And so basically you're mapping your customer experience to figure out where are those areas where customers or buyers are forming an opinion about your company, and then you want to focus on improving those particular moments of truth. So again, a vital part of being successful in quote-to-cash transformation is looking at those buyer moments where buyers or customers are forming these moments of truth and focusing on what you can do to improve in that area. So I know you guys picked one of these moments of truth. You want to tell us about that?
Sure, Wendy, thanks. So we really do value our customer experience, and throughout this whole process, the biggest win there has got to be the new e-signature experience. So it's kind of funny that a technology company such as ourselves, we're still asking our customers to print, sign, and then manually upload their contracts back to us even a year ago today. So here you can see what this looked like before. This is actually someone from Jane's team manually stamping a contract, and now we have this, right? So the e-signature experience is not only a win for our customers, but it's really also a win for us as well. So we've removed all the manual steps on both ends. We have full visibility into the whole e-signing process. We can recall agreements, set expirations, and so much more. So it really is a win-win for both sides.
Excellent. So this leads us to our 7th building block, and probably the most common one, or the one that people probably focus on the most, and that's the technology. I'm not saying it's the most important thing, I just think it's the thing that you automatically think about when you're deploying new technology. So definitely you want to think about having that strong technology underpinnings in place. If you heard the Microsoft speaker talk about cloud technology and some of the benefits there, so that you're not focusing on infrastructure, but focusing on innovation. So tell us a little bit about your technology journey.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. So here are 4 of the main tools that we leverage to make all of this possible for us. So to start, we use Apttus CLM. So some of the real benefits that we're seeing there are that we're able to execute our contracts on average of 5 days quicker than with our former process. We also have automated approvals, which removes a lot of the manual email clutter and follow-up, so that's been great. And as I mentioned, our data is in a much better place, so our reporting is much better. Second, we use Adobe Sign as our e-sign provider, so the teams love it. I already went over why this is valuable to us, but it's just been great all around. Third, we are leveraging X-Author, which has been huge for Jane's team because now they can actually track clauses, which we weren't able to do before. And then finally, we're getting ready to roll out Apttus incentive comp. So our sales comps teams are really excited about this, and it should be great.
Great. Jane, do you want to tell us a little bit more about clause tracking in X-Author so we can understand that in case people aren't familiar with Apttus's X-Author technology?
Yeah, definitely. So in all of our templates, we use smart clauses, and these smart clauses actually upload changes in the documents back to Salesforce. So we can just track like what's being redlined in our contracts at a more granular level, rather than picking 5 fields that are the most important. We can kind of just track everything. So it's been really great.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
And Pablo and a couple other of the AppNexus team is going to be here tomorrow afternoon talking about behavioral nudges and how to shift behaviors with things like incentives, with compensation, with rebates, promotions, and what they're doing in this area. So if you're interested in that, join us again tomorrow afternoon. And so finally, the last building block is well-defined metrics to monitor and track your success. You saw the slide this morning in the keynote. Kamal talked about, or maybe Kirk did, talked about some of the success that Apttus customers have reported on average. And so you really want to begin to take some metrics up front. You can use a really simple survey tool to begin to look at how long it's taking you to do various processes and begin to collect those metrics so that you can prove what you've been able to succeed once you have gone to the deployment and begin to be able to get some success. You're able to have some metrics to prove the benefits that you've achieved. And this is the part I'm the most excited about with the AppNexus team. They've seen some really incredible metrics. So Jane, you want to walk us through them?
Definitely. So here's some numbers on the board. I'd be very surprised if anybody knows what these are, but I'll walk you through them. So 49 represents the number of steps in our process, and we've seen a decrease to about 28, which has been awesome. It's like a 43% decrease. 21 represents the number of handoffs between all the swim lanes in those flow charts that you saw earlier, and that's been decreased 14% to 18 handoffs. 312 represents the number of minutes in our process, and this has been decreased to 265. This one we think we can actually get better at, and something that we are continually iterating on. So because AppNexus is a consumption model, the earlier that we can get people onto the platform and spending money and growing their business, the better it is for us. So the shorter the time in the process, the better it is. And the last one, 11, represents the number of days to signature. So 11 was the average number of days that we saw with our manual signature process, and we've seen a decrease to about 7 with e-signature.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And which metric do you think you guys are the most proud of or has had the greatest impact on your business for those who are trying to figure out what metrics they should focus on?
I think the number of handoffs is probably the most important one. I think you just always lose time and knowledge flipping between different teams. So the more that we can get that down and just like make it as easy as possible for people, I think the better it is. So
Excellent.
That was my favorite. And so here's some metrics from my team. So my team processes all of the contracts. So 1,800 represents the number of cases per quarter that we see, and that's actually increased to about 2,100. So
now explain to everyone what a case is in your world.
Yeah, sure. So cases represent like contract reviews. So we review all of our contracts before they go out to the client, and then we also countersign them and set them up in Salesforce in our internal tool once they come back. So,
and for you guys, a case is like a quote. So it's that moment of truth that Kirk was talking about this morning where the deal is taking place, the pricing's in there. So cases for you they represent new buyers, revenue coming in the door. So that's your big moment there.
Exactly.
So that's going up.
Yep. Yeah. So as our business grows, number of cases that we see is going up. And so 6 represents the number of people on my team. So as our cases have went up, our people have actually went down to about 4. So because of the lean process, because of Apttus CLM and just efficiencies that we've seen throughout the process, and the number of times spent getting a contract through the system has decreased, we've been able to use those 2 other people on other parts of the operations team to do higher impact work.
Excellent.
So, yeah. So overall, we've seen about a 75% increase in productivity, which has been great.
Wow. So increases in productivity, more deals coming in the door, less people to handle those deals, able to put those people into more strategic work. You're getting applause there.
Woo!
Yeah. Excellent. All right, so then finally, Jane, tell us about some of the key lessons that you've learned that the audience can take advantage of.
Sure. Yeah. So me and Noelle work really closely together. We always talk about, what can we do better. We went through this implementation together. So one of the main things that we saw was training. So we knew that with our 200 salespeople and account managers across the world, that training was really important. They needed to know not only when we rolled out the tool, how to use it, but also throughout their life cycle. Account managers don't put a contract through the system every day. So, training on an ongoing basis and making it flexible was really important to us. The second one was feedback. So as people are using the system, they had feedback for us, but they didn't necessarily know where to send it, who to send it to. So we set up the Champions program that Noelle talked about earlier, where people could give us feedback on a monthly basis, and we could also give them information to send back to their teams, like the roadmap. And the last one is the roadmap. So me and Noelle hear a lot every day, and we just needed to distill it into something more actionable. So we have an Excel sheet of our roadmap, everything that we want to do, put dates against them, and then execute them, and then also look back and see everything that we've done.
Excellent. All right, so we have a couple minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience? And maybe we could get a handheld mic. Anybody have a question for the AppNexus team? All right, well, they're going to be available over in the speaker area, so if you'd like to follow them over there and ask a question offline, that would be great. And thank you all for joining us.